Welcome to the Doggy Dojo. I'm your host, Susan Light, a Los Angeles-based dog trainer and behavior consultant on a quest to become worthy of the title Sensei of the Doggy Dojo. We're talking today about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, the link between pain and behavior. Any good behavior consultant will advise a new client to check with their vet prior to starting a behavior modification program. Why do we do this? Because the research is clear. Many, if not most, behavior issues have a medical component. It's very important to address an animal's physical health first. This is the most ethical and most effective approach. My guest founded Dynamic Dog. It's a consulting team unlike any other. Dynamic Dog and its practitioners are behavior consultants who can give your dog an in-depth pain assessment. This assessment can be taken to the vet to assist with a diagnosis. My guest's journey started with her horse being diagnosed with a painful disease, and then her dog did as well. She became a TTouch practitioner. TTouch recognizes the link between posture and how this affects an animal's behavior. This sparked her interest in canine anatomy and physiology, and she wanted to learn more about the canine body and how their muscular skeletal system works. In 2018, she qualified with distinction on a Level 4 diploma in canine massage and rehabilitation through the OCN London. She graduated from the International School of Canine Psychology and Behavior at degree level as a canine behavior practitioner and is a TTouch training P2. Please welcome the founder of Dynamic Dog, Gemma Hodson. Gemma, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'm so excited to talk about this topic because it just comes up so much. I mean, there's so many dogs and other animals, I'm sure, but we're talking about dogs today that are experiencing pain, and it really affects their behavior. So that's your specialty, yes?
It is, yes. I've got a finger in a lot of pies. So I do rehabilitation therapy, so physiotherapy, massage, hydrotherapy, and I'm also a behavior practitioner as well. So I've happily kind of melded my specialist subjects, as you were, and now I assess other people's dogs for pain that could be linked to their behaviour for whatever reason, and I teach this to other professionals as well. So yeah, I have the best job in the world, basically.
And so needed, honestly, because can you talk a little bit about the connection between pain and behavior?
Oh, crikey. How long have you got?
We're going to try to keep it under 30 minutes. But
oh, God. 30 days might be better. So in all honesty, there's a huge connection between pain and behaviour. So any abnormal, unwanted behaviour could be a sign of pain. But also there are times when a behaviour is lacking, so normal behaviour is lacking within an animal, that could also be a sign of pain.
Oh my God, that's such a good point.
So wow. There's also maybe behaviours that an animal will do which don't annoy the owner, which might also be signs of pain. So it's really, really hard to quantify. I mean, I can give you kind of some broad examples. The most common ones, kind of like panting, unable to settle, whining, vocalizing, reactivity. Obviously, I mean, yes. Reactivity is like a label, it's a buzzword. Mm-hmm. But reacting to a stimulus, I like to call these dogs sensitive to certain things rather than reactive. But also, it can be so much more than that. So it can be, a dog not wanting to go out for a walk. It could be a dog stopping on a walk. It can be a dog pulling on a lead because they can't make us walk fast enough in order for them to walk faster so that they can offload sore joints. So quite often a dog that has discomfort will prefer to trot rather than walk. So the only way a dog can get us to walk faster when they're on a lead is to potentially pull. So you can see kind of like it can come from all angles and mean many different things depending on the dog and depending on how observant the human is.
That's such a good point, and I think it's really important for people to really realize that they know their dog the best.
Yes.
And so they're the most likely to recognize these signs. And I think you don't say symptoms, right? Because symptoms would be something that they could tell you about.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like dogs, when we're talking about pain, we're not going to say signs and symptoms. We're just going to say signs that we're seeing. So we're going to tread a little carefully in my next couple questions, because I know we have to be careful. I know I can't diagnose a medical condition.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about your qualifications, right?
No, I'm not allowed to either. Yeah.
So it puts us though in a really difficult spot when we're advocating for our pets and our clients' pets, because we can't diagnose. We can't say your dog has hip dysplasia, blah blah blah, etc. XYZ. Yeah. So all we can say is, I see these behaviors, I see these signs. I think you should talk to the vet. But I'll tell you the response I get every time. I just took them to the vet. They didn't say anything about it. Yeah. So, so can we talk about that? If we just took them to the vet and the vet doesn't think they're in pain, can we say, check, it's definitely not pain? What do we do from there?
Right. So first of all, I just want to put my 2 penneth worth into the ruling out of pain in animals. So from my perspective is that human beings do not know 100% whether an animal is in pain or not. Okay, they cannot say within 100%. No one has the right to rule out pain in another being. Cat, dog, horse, fish, anything. We can't be 100% certain. There is no test at present that can give you that or give us that information. Okay, so you really, as an owner, you have to advocate for your animal and kind of really push. And it's really, really difficult. So whilst a lot of vets will kind of, they'll manipulate the dogs. They'll do a good kind of hands-on physical exam. A really good vet will want to see the dog move for themselves, so that should be outside somewhere. And not all vets are trained in posture, conformation and gait analysis, and not all vets actually recognise behavioural signs of a dog being in pain. They'll go for the usual ones like crying out in pain or resistance when they're actually manipulating to try and evoke a pain response. But kind of facial expressions, behaviours particularly, they don't really understand. And I'm not bashing vets here at all.
Absolutely.
A very difficult job. Yeah, because they have to be experts in multiple species. That is impossible. Mm-hmm. Absolutely impossible.
Every body system in multiple species.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's an amazing amount of information.
Yeah. And certainly in the UK, unless a vet goes off and specialises, they don't get very much training in behaviour at all. And it's not the same sort of behaviour training with regards to kind of maybe the positive force-free side of behaviour as well. So it's, they have a very, very hard job to do. What they do need to do, though, is refer on or bring other specialities into their practice to help them to get to the bottom of what's going on for a particular animal with regards to physical issues. And I also don't think 10 to 15 minutes in a consultation is enough time for a vet to potentially diagnose hundreds of thousands of things that could be wrong with that animal. So it's difficult. So kind of this is where me amalgamating my specialities, the things that I've gone off and spent many years training to do, comes into its own. So I've created a specific way of assessing animals. So I don't necessarily assess for pain, but I use my observations to help a vet make a more informed diagnosis. And we look at a whole range of things from the dog's conformation, so that's how the dog was put together, to the dog's posture. So that's how the dog carries themselves for comfort. And then we look at gait, so walk, trot, canter in kind of all different directions. And then we look at the dog's activities of daily living. So right from the moment they get up to the moment they go to sleep and everything in between. And we also do functional assessment. So, we'll ask them to do certain things to see if they're able to do certain things and how they use their body. And that can give us a lot of information. Now, for a dynamic dog assessment, it takes roughly about 2 weeks. And that's a lot of work from the practitioner, so either me or one of my graduates, and the caregiver or the owner, in order to collate a lot of information, report writing. Now, a vet does not have that time to do what we do as part of an assessment. But what we do is put it all together. We give the vet all the information of what's not right with the dog, put it into their terms so that they can understand and go, right, okay, here's where I need to look. And 9 times out of 10, that gets results for the dog. And not only do we help the dog, but we then obviously therefore help the owner and give both some relief.
That's amazing. And I think also it's important for people to realize that, like, usually when a vet sees an animal, they're stressed. So they're already exhibiting abnormal behavior and body postures and things. So that makes it even more difficult for them to say, like, oh, that dog's in pain, because that's just what every dog that comes to see them pretty much looks like, kind of cowering, kind of
it can be. It can be. So don't forget, we've got a slippery floor at a vet that with the dogs also have to negotiate. So whether a dog's in pain or not, posturally, they're going to be adapting because of that slippery floor. A dog walking on a vet floor is a bit like us trying to walk on ice wearing stilettos. It's virtually impossible. You're going to walk like you've pooed your pants, basically, because you don't want to take too big a steps in case you just kind of, your foot goes out from underneath you. So that's something that the dog has to negotiate even before the vet gets to see them. And then we have the dogs that are overexcited, overwhelmed, they're jumping up all over the place. The vet just takes one look at them and go, well, if he can do that, then clearly he's not in any discomfort, which is wrong. Dog in discomfort will still run up and down the stairs, will still do zoomies, will still jump on and off the bed. My dog has got bilateral hip dysplasia and osteochondrosis of both stifles. He is in pain. He runs up and down the stairs like a loon. He will do zoomies and he will jump on and off the bed and, go herring across the field to go and play with another dog. Okay, it's a common misconception that dogs will not move if they're in pain. Then you've got the dogs that shut down because the environment is too scary or the person is too scary. And they basically freeze and they don't elicit a pain response because they just want to get that situation over and done with as quickly as possible. So they do not move at all. So it's really, really hard for vets, really, really hard. And dynamic dog is done away from the veterinary environment in the comfort of the dog's own home with people that they trust around them. So the dog is going to be as relaxed as possible. And that gives us the opportunity to see what the dog would naturally choose to do with their body.
Yeah, I love that. I usually recommend that my clients take videos
Yes.
of the way the dog is moving because the vet probably won't see it. So that's great. It's even more in depth. So the assessment that you guys do sounds amazing, and I'm going to definitely link all the information for my listeners. If you've got a dog you think is in pain, do you take clients? I know, so you're based in the UK.
I'm based in the UK, but I've got graduates all over the world. So Beautiful. All over America, all over Europe, Australia, you name it.
Do we need to find someone local through your website, or could one of your graduates or yourself work virtually?
We work virtually as well, and it's particularly good for those dogs who are sensitive maybe to other people. So if your dog's got, I'm using inverted commas here when I say reactivity for any reason, then we can do this virtually. So we'll talk the owner, the guardian through step by step what photos and videos we need. We need things done in a specific way in order for us to make, as best observations as we can, and to give clear, concise undeniable evidence to the vet. But yes, we can do it all virtually, and I've got clients all over the world, and unfortunately I've never stepped foot on a plane to some of the really nice hot and sunny places where my clients live. So yeah, I get to stay in the chilly UK.
If you suspect your dog is in pain and want a dynamic dog assessment, head to Gemma's website. It's www.dynamicdog.co.uk. You can connect with either Gemma herself or one of the trainers who's been through her program. I'll put the link in the show notes, as well as the links to some of the other things Gemma mentions in this episode, like the study about pain and behavior problems in cats and dogs. We'll be right back. Do we need expensive tests to see if they're in pain? Like if the vet looks at us and like they seem fine, maybe we should do x-rays, maybe we should do ultrasounds. Are these good next steps to take?
So it all depends on what's happening for the dog. So if you've got a super sensitive dog, and remember I call reactivity, sensitivity, then potentially, we could ask the vet if we can do a pain relief trial, so that we don't have to upset the dog further and put them through loads and loads of tests. But the thing is with the pain relief trial is that it can take a fair few weeks to get on top of pain that is classed as chronic.
Did you say 30 weeks?
No, it can take a number of weeks. So
sorry.
Yeah, so
I thought you said 30 weeks. I was like, wow.
No. So depend. Well, this is the thing. So there's many different types of pain that you can feel within the body. Okay, so you've got your bone pain, your soft tissue pain, and your nerve pain. Okay, and with some conditions, you might get multiple combinations of those, or all three. So your vet might give you a specific pain medication that's targeted for a certain type of pain, and you might not see results from that. So, when you do a pain relief trial, first of all, they might give you 10 days to 2 weeks of a particular pain med, because that's all they're licensed to do with that particular drug. So it's not that necessarily down to the vet's choice. It's all they're licensed to do, or they're allowed to do. And if at the end of those 2 weeks you don't see any results, don't just think, well, the dog isn't in pain then. The vet might say, well, if you see no results, the dog isn't in any pain. I would turn around and say, okay, so is there a chance we can extend the pain trial? So generally, somewhere between 6 and 8, up to 6 and 8 weeks, you might start to see results. Or maybe we can change the type of pain medication that's targeted to a different sort of pain. Or can we use a combination of pain meds, so keep him on the current one and add in something that's targeted to a different type of pain to see if we get results that way? Because it's a bit like a headache. Paracetamol, which I'm not quite sure what you guys call it in the States, is kind of like your kind of go-to for kind of a headache pain. But then for other people, ibuprofen might be better, so it's a difference, I think, between Advil and maybe Anadin or
Tylenol
like
and
Tylenol.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. So what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another, and that is exactly the same with your dog. Exactly the same with your dog. And you might have a dog that's already on pain relief and it's been working, and then all of a sudden you start to see changes in your dog's behaviour for the worse again. Now that would tell me that we need to review the pain meds, and we need to review the condition to see whether the condition is progressing or not. So it's really difficult, but don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask, because or go for a second opinion if you come up against a roadblock. Find someone that's going to listen to you about your concerns about your dog. Don't just take no for an answer. If your gut is really saying something's not right here, go for a second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion. Find someone to listen to you. And if you can't find anyone, contact me. I'll tell your vet in the States that will listen to you. It's all about, like you said at the beginning, your dog better than anyone. So use your voice, because your dog can't. I mean, I can give you an example of quite an early case before I started doing dynamic dog, and it was an Irish Water Spaniel. I'd been working with her for a couple of months. It actually took me quite a while to convince the owners that there was discomfort that were adding to her behaviour. She was reactive to everything. sights, sounds, smells, people, dogs. She had a very, very small circle of trust, which thankfully I was one of them. She beautiful Irish Water Spaniel. I absolutely adore her. And I started working with her at 9 months, and it took me to 18 months to convince the clients that she was into some discomfort. So, sometimes people don't want to hear it either, and that's absolutely fine, and you they say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And sometimes people aren't ready to hear that yet, because it makes them feel like a bad owner. And that's not the case at all. Absolutely not. You only know what you know, and when you know better, you can do better at the end of the day. Absolutely. But this particular dog, she ended up breaking her dew claw and had to go into the vets. Now, obviously, she was sensitive towards the veterinary environment and the vets. And the vet turned around and said, your dog is unpredictable and vicious. We need to put that dog to sleep. And the owners thankfully called me, and I was like, look, please say to the vet, that's not what you need. I'm 100% certain that there's something wrong with your dog, specifically the hind end more than anything. We need to get this dog CT scanned. I said, if she's got to be knocked out to have that dew claw fixed anyway, where's the harm in putting her in the scanner? She was insured, so, the owners were happy to do that. The vet was quite insistent there was nothing wrong with her and it was just behavioural, but they humoured the owner anyway. And then we got the phone call saying, right, okay, so we've scanned her from front to back. She has joint degradation of the left shoulder. She has bilateral hip dysplasia, which is worse in the right hind. And she has spondylosis throughout the length of her spine. So that dog had a treble whammy, as it were, of discomfort within her body. So then we were able to give her not just behavioural meds to help her think, but we were able to give her pain meds to help her get on top of the pain. Were we going to resolve it completely? No, because all of those conditions are progressive, unfortunately. Surgery is not going to be able to fix that. But then we were able to bring in supportive therapies. And all of a sudden, we have a dog that can now go to boarding kennels and is absolutely fine with all members of the staff. She now has doggy friends. And we were able to introduce, because the owners wanted a cleaner to come to their house, we were able to introduce a cleaner within 4 weeks.
Wow.
And now that dog lives harmoniously, not only with her family, but her world has gotten much, much bigger. Now, we know her condition is progressing when her behaviour spikes. So that means we review the meds and we review her supportive therapies. And if the behaviour is significant enough, we'll get her rescanned to see how much it's progressed and things like that. So, and there's behaviour protocols that we can put in place to keep everybody safe around those times. So, that was one of the first kind of cases where it was, the vet was adamant it was just behaviour, and lo and behold, when we dug a little deeper, there was many things that were wrong with this dog, which were, the reason why she was so reactive in the first place. Bless her.
Yeah, and it makes so much sense. If everything in your body hurts, every time something pops out, you're like, I think that I went to an aggression in dogs conference last fall, and they said that something like 80 to 90% of dogs who present aggression have a medical issue. And so it's important we're always taught as behavior professionals to rule out a medical cause first. And I will say, it's just like you said, you can't really rule out pain because it was such an interesting post that either one of you or one of your graduates posted about how, and I'm going to mess up the terminology. I'll let you take over, but about how there can be a cause in your body for pain, or there couldn't, but you could still feel pain, or there should be pain and you could not feel it. Yeah. Say it correctly, because it was so interesting.
Yeah. So it's difficult. So that if I start off by saying there is a brilliant study that was done, that was headed up by Lincoln University in the UK, headed up by Professor Daniel Mills, and it's called Pain and Problematic Behaviour in Cats and Dogs. So if you get that study, it's like 20 odd pages long, and it goes into problematic behaviours and particular physical issues that were actually linked to those behaviours. But Daniel Mills actually says in that study that we should be ruling out physical issues with a dog before going on to behaviour protocols and behaviour advice, because a lot of the times when we address the physical issue, then the behaviours will lessen or completely diminish altogether. And, you know, a lot of the time when we work with dogs and the behaviours plateau, you know, and they don't diminish any further, it's because generally the underlying cause hasn't been addressed. Now, there's just like I said, there's many different types of pain within the body, and I mentioned nerve pain. Well, there's a condition called allodynia, which is a specific condition that's to do with the nerves. I won't get into the nitty gritty of it, but whilst an MRI can see nerves and probably can see inflammation, it can't detect pain. You know, a CT scan can't detect pain. An X-ray can't detect pain, you know, and it's a bit like when you've got flu. If you were to put yourself in an MRI scanner, your body's going to show up normal. But does your skin hurt when you've got flu, or when you've got a cold or a virus? You know, of course it does. So, you know, the body is an amazing thing. And I say we're all made out of the same stuff, just packaged up with a slightly different bow, depending on the species that you are. And just because, you know, that other being isn't a human, we can't rule out the fact that they don't feel the same things as we do. So, you know, a stomachache, you might have a stomachache for because you've actually got a trapped nerve in your back. How weird is that? Due to where the nerves actually come out of the spinal cord, you know, your lower back can affect your gut, and your gut can affect your lower back. So it's a minefield when it comes to pain and exactly where things are, what we can see, and how that's interpreted. So yeah, again, it's a bit of a difficult one to quantify.
Definitely. And it's funny because sometimes I do these episodes hoping that at the end there'll be like a simple answer, and it's like, oh, it's so much more complicated than I thought. But it's such an important topic. So it's like, I think my head is spinning a little bit, and probably anyone listening's head might be spinning a little bit, but
I'm sorry.
I just think I think it's so important for people to realize how common pain is, especially causing behavior issues, and how, you know, if we don't address it, we're wasting our time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, people are like, I just want to train them, you know, not to bark at the whatever. And it's like, it's just different. You have to really go to the cause. So I think it's fascinating. I think it's amazing that you're a resource. I know I'm going to start recommending people reach out to you and your graduates. I think it's so important. And, you know, advocate for your pets if you think that it might be pain. And I don't know. I had one more question. We're out of time.
Oh no!
But I have one more question. We'll see if I have to edit it out or whatever. But
okay.
I really want to address this. Can we, if we think it's pain, can we just treat it on our own?
Oh.
Should we take some CBD? Should we take some arnica, something that we can get out over the counter and say, I'm just gonna treat it on my own? What do you think about that?
Look, all I can say is when I had my beloved Bulldog up until the end of October last year, did I research certain things that would help him with his allergies and his pain relief for hip dysplasia? Yes, I did. You know, I tried all sorts of weird and wonderful things. If you've ever heard of zoopharmacognosy, which is how animals would heal themselves in the wild, you can look at joint supplements and all different things like that. So you can help your dog naturally if you want to, but where it concerns medication, you really do need a little bit of help about that. I mean, being in the industry as long as I have, you know, I give my dog a specific pain medication, which I've cleared with my vet. I said, I'm going to give my dog this, and he agreed absolutely 100%. So it's really difficult. You don't want to go and try and give a dog a medication to find out actually it's toxic for dogs, or you've given it the wrong quantity. You have to be so careful. And there's so many different people that can help you. So my dogs don't just have a normal vet. They also have a holistic vet that will help. I've got a dog nutritionist as well, Dr. Conor Brady, who I need to mention because he's amazing. I go to the relevant person to what I think I can, that can help my dog at that specific time. So all I will say is you can do your research. Always do your research. If the vet wants to give your dog a specific medication, do your research on that so you know kind of what the side effects are and things like that, so you can have a better understanding of how that medication is going to help your dog. But be really, really careful is all I will say. Joint supplements, yes. Anything else, get advice from somebody who knows what they're doing, and generally that's to go to a vet, an understanding vet.
Thank you for stopping by the dojo this week. This is your aspiring sensei, Susan Light, signing off. You can find me at doggydojopodcast.com, or I'm Susan Light LA on Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook. The music was written by Mac Light. You can find him at maclightsongwriter.com. If you like the show, you can support it by subscribing, sharing it with your friends, rating it, and reviewing it on Apple Podcasts. Just a reminder, this podcast is intended for educational purposes only and does not constitute advice or professional services by either the host or any of the guests. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another new episode of the Doggy Dojo.